and also pros in entering into the session today. Are we waiting to start, or we can just start?
Andrea, your webcam is active. Sorry, we have a technical issue. You can start your webcam.
Annika, can you hear me?
Yes, you can start your webcam.
No, yes, I know, but it doesn't work. So I have a problem with the cam. I tried a couple of times, but it doesn't work.
Now it should. You are a co-host, and now it should. This is what I was saying.
No, it's an hardware problem.
So
maybe he really has a problem. It's not on our side. Okay, so we will of course start now the meeting. So welcome everyone. Thank you very much for joining. I see a couple of people joining us in the chat, and hopefully more people are joining also to see us on the live streaming. My name is Eva Anyadi. I'm an EIT Climate-KIC Water Scarcity Project Manager, and today I will be your host for this seminar. This seminar is organized in the context of the EIT Water Scarcity Community, which is a project delivered by 4 EIT knowledge and innovation communities. But before we go into the details of our seminars, I would very much like to give the word to Andrea Rubini from Water Europe, who is going to give us an opening speech, because the series of these seminars are co-hosted and organized between our initiative and Water Europe. Andrea, would you like to come in here? We can't hear you now. Can you try again, please? Well, so maybe we can. Okay. Perfect. We can hear you now, Andrea. Please go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes. No, we lost you. We lost you again. So I think we might be struggling with Andrea's voice today. So what I suggest we start, and when we have him back, he can give us a couple of thoughts on his side about water pollution and water scarcity. So I will quickly share my screen to start the presentation so you can all see what I would like to show. Just 1 second. Okay. So as I said, the context of this seminar today is the EIT Water Scarcity Initiative, which is delivered by 4 of the EIT's knowledge and innovation community. It is led by EIT Food with the collaboration from EIT Climate-KIC, the organization I represent. And we also have EIT Manufacturing and EIT Digital. And we receive support from other external organizations, Athena Research Center, Bioswol from Spain, TU Delft. This project applies a multi-sectoral and multidisciplinary approach to drive, to find innovative solutions to water scarcity. The project started in 2020, establishing the body of knowledge expert group, which is the setting that organizes these seminars with us, when 16 international experts came together to define the most defining challenges of water scarcity in Southern Europe. In 2021, the group continued the work and delivered 2 high-level publications, a white paper with innovative solutions to cope with water scarcity, and a review of financial instruments available to water entrepreneurs. On my screen, hopefully you can see the QR codes, which you can use with your smartphone to download the 2 publications for a very small fee. And today we are actually on the 2nd seminar of the series of seminars we are delivering this year to disseminate the outcomes of the white paper. 2 weeks ago, we began the discussion with the contextualization of water scarcity in Southern Europe. And today we will focus on the connection between water scarcity and water pollution. In the coming months, in July, we will deliver a seminar on circular economy, in September on smart tools, and we will finalize the series with a discussion on governance and finance schemes to tackle water scarcity. Today, as we said, we will very much focus on water pollution and its connection to water scarcity. The seminar today will be delivered, we will begin with a series of short presentations. Manuela Melucci will talk about the connection between water scarcity and water pollution, discuss some of the emerging contaminants, and talk about PFAS. And if you don't know what PFAS are, you are at the right place to find out. Her presentation will be followed by Ioana Nidiliotti's presentation on phosphorus and nitrogen pollution and toxic cyanobacteria. And we will finalize with Maria Cristina Pazzi, who will talk to us about how to measure the economic damage of water pollution and apply the ESG criteria. After the presentations, we will have a panel discussion with 5 very distinguished guests who are here with us today. Maura Manganelli, Laura Facciolo, Nicolaus Kofo-Kotsios, Maurizio Brunetti, and Matteo Marcone. And I would very much like to say a big thank from our side to other experts in our group who also supported us with the preparation of this seminar. And those are Anarita Ferreira, Stanin Musovic, Piet Lenz, and Joana Costa. And with that, I will give the words to our first presenters, Manuela.
Thank you, Eva. Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to start with this seminar showing these 2 images taken just a few days ago here in Italy. As you know, probably in Italy, we are under a strong water stress. The river at your right is, at your left is representative of what is happening to surface water in the southern regions of Europe. You see this river is almost dry. But at the same time, we are using fresh waters to dilute polluted waters. And I think this is a clear relationship between water scarcity and water pollution. Water scarcity increased water pollution because it reduced the capacity of water bodies to dilute pollution. And water pollution increased water scarcity. So you see at your right, a collector of wastewaters that the black color comes from dyes and pigments from tanneries district, and we need to use fresh water to dilute this pollution before emitting these waters to the environment or to use it for irrigation purposes. Next slide, please. Thank you. Okay.
Sorry.
Chemical, yes, yeah, don't worry. Chemical pollution is something that is affecting some of the surface, ground, and coastal waters in Europe. The surface, these waters are not in a good ecological and chemical status as required by the European, the Water Framework Directive. And most of the pressure comes from the effect of anthropogenic activities impact wastewaters, but also agriculture and atmospheric deposition. So direct or diffuse sources of introduction of pollutants. And I would like to show you practical examples on the relationship between these aspects, water pollution and water scarcity, and the effect on our life quality with 2 case studies, so practical cases. Next slides, please. Industry is not the only source of pollutants in waters. We use thousands of products and chemicals every day for our daily life. They are essential, of course, for our lives. So just think to cosmetics, personal care products, households, pesticides and pharmaceuticals and so on. But at the end of their life, these chemicals end up in our water bodies. And this is why they've been increasingly found in our waters. They are now called emerging contaminants or novel entities, so something new to deal with. And unfortunately, in some cases, the effect on our health of these compounds have been already assessed. There are evidences on the effect on cancer development or neurodevelopment delay, or even antibiotic resistance is related to the presence of antibiotics in waters. Next slide, please. So one of the emerging European and worldwide concern about emerging contaminants are perfluoro and polyfluoroalkyl substances, PFAS. They are also called forever chemicals, and the name recalls their strong stability. We've been using for years thousands of products, from clothing to cooking products, containing these compounds. And they are very stable because of the carbon-fluorine bond, which is one of the strongest chemical bonds in organic chemistry, and very mobile. This is why they've been found even in the fat of polar bears in the Arctic region. They can accumulate over time and in the environment. Only some of them have been already banned, others are under restrictions, and some member states have asked for banning all PFAS for all uses. And you can see here some of the products containing PFAS that we've been used for many years without knowing their potential danger. Next slide, please. And one of the most famous cases around the world about PFAS contamination is here in Italy, in the Veneto region, the region of Venice town. A few years ago, my colleagues from Sienna discovered a strong contamination by PFAS in surface, ground, and tap water. People were drinking tap water polluted by PFAS for years without being aware. And the source of contamination again comes from an industry, fluorochemical companies that discharge the wastewater in the wastewater treatment plant. So part of these waters was then used for agriculture. And so now food is contaminated, and even blood of people is polluted by these compounds. And today we have as a guest a representative member of the No Fuss mom committee, because these moms are facing the issues related to the contamination of blood of their kids. In the next slides, we will see a contribute from Laura. She's today with us for further discussion. So just listen her contribute, please.
My aim as a Mom of Fuss is to demonstrate that we are not giving up and that our story is to be shared, just to avoid that this kind of issue will not repeat in any other place of the world.
Thank you. Next slide, please. So you see now tap water in this region is safe, but all the environment is polluted. And to remediate this problem, the utilities in that region installed the granular activated carbon filter step, last step of purification. Activated carbons allow a very nice reduction of these chemicals, but they are not so efficient, for example, on short chain compounds. So there are other alternatives, but this is at the moment the most used technologies, and we have to think about all the environmental issues related to activated carbon, regeneration costs, they need high temperature, transport costs, and a lot of ethical issues for their production. At the same time, the utilities are using alternative supplies to dilute this pollution, and other risk prevention, risk assessment and prevention measures are, of course, demanding by the European, the new Drinking Water Directive in terms of water safety plans. So actions are already undergoing. Next slide, please. And we have to think that what we are doing at the land level, so on our surface and groundwater, is not confined to the land, but we have to think with the land, from land to sea perspective, because everything ends up in our sea, and vice versa. Pollutants can spread from land to sea. And I would like to show you this case representative of how the ecosystems are strongly interconnected each other. We are, in this case, in Apulia region, in the southern of Italy, this is at the moment the region with the lowest level of rainfall, with anomalous temperature. That this bay you see is subject to an increase of temperature of 5 degrees in the last year. So you see, we have a brackish basin, inland brackish basin, surrounded by the city, Taranto city, and subject to an intensive human usage. So we have industrial plants. This is the largest steel production plants in Europe, oil refinery, military arsenals, agriculture. Everything is affecting also the quality of air here. And this is famous also, sorry, something happened, for massive, can you hear me?
Yes, Manuela, we can hear you now. You broke up for a second, but it's okay now.
Okay, sorry. So everything is connected to a protected area and to the open sea. Next slide, please, to these channels you can see at your left. And everything is connected to the land, to surface and groundwater. You see here submarine freshwater springs taking fresh water to this bay, and together with fresh water, it is taking also pollutants. So a recent studies involving a lot of expertise, so geologists, chemists, hydrogeologists show a strong contamination of marine sediments, again from chemicals coming from the industrial sites and taken by these underground aquifer and rivers. And this is going in parallel with the health issues that, again, kids are experiencing in this area. So we can say that the ecosystem and these waters are reflecting the hazardous scenario that people is experiencing, together with the water scarcity in this area that enhance the level of pollution, because impeded the natural dilution effect that fresh water could allow. Next slide, please. So how to deal with these issues? We have to adopt new remediation technologies and new monitoring tools. We have artificial intelligence and smart technologies that need to be improved for allowing real-time monitoring, enhanced remediation, as well as we have to adopt protection and restoration measures, improve the water reuse, and all these issues are discussed in our white paper of this initiative. And as a chemist, I would like to point out the importance of the green chemistry and the replacement of hazardous chemicals, and also to the adoption of sustainability actions toward the entire production line on chemicals to avoid what happened in Veneto region with PFAS. And we will have contributed by, in the next seminar by Maria Cristina Pasi on the design for sustainability approaches that industrial and chemical factories are adopting together with other industries. So I would like to conclude, next slide, with a positive thinking. Let's say we succeeded in ancient time to face water pollution issues related to industrial growth, to population growth. So today, with all the digital technologies and tools and knowledge we have, we will succeed. Of course, actions have to be taken, and I would like to include as the actions our individual responsibility. That's the end from my side. Thank you to all the people I interviewed and supported me for this presentation, to Eva and to you for your attention.
Thank you, Manuela. A wonderful diversity of very important issues have been discussed. And now we move on to the next presentation by Joanna. Joanna, can you start here? Can you hear us?
Yes, hello. There is a black box on the title. I don't know if we can
see. Right. don't know how to take it off.
It's okay, it's okay. I will just say the title.
Okay.
Hello, after presenting chemical pollution of water bodies, in this presentation we will talk about nutrient pollution of water bodies. As you can see in this graph, nutrient pollution is the second impact on EU water bodies after chemical pollution, with 20% of surface water bodies polluted and 18% of groundwater bodies polluted. In the right graphs, we can see nitrogen levels and phosphorus levels in the EU, and we can observe very high concentration of phosphorus in Southern Europe, as well as increased concentration of nitrogen also in Southern Europe. So nutrient pollution in Southern Europe is a very emerging issue, and we need to take actions very fast. Let's move to the next slide. The main anthropogenic causes of nutrient pollution is the direct discharges of industrial wastewater in surface water bodies and groundwater bodies, the municipal wastewater discharges in high density population areas, the concentrated animal feeding operations, and the exceed use of fertilizers in agricultural practices. As you know, in Southern Europe, there is exceed concentrated animal feeding operations and agricultural practices, which are the main, let's say, branches of the economy for Southern Europe countries. So all these activities combined with the high temperatures in Southern Europe leads to severe eutrophication of surface and marine water bodies. Next slide, please. The eutrophication impacts are severe in Southern Europe. Some of them are the abundance of particular substances such as phytoplankton, zooplankton, bacteria, and fungi and debris necessary for all water bodies. Increase of inorganic chemicals like ammonia, nitrates, hydrogen sulfide that induce the formation of harmful substances in water bodies such as nitrosamines and pharmaceutical degradation products. And in my opinion, the most severe impact is the development of algal blooms, which lead to limitation of dissolved oxygen, leading to death of aquatic life due to hypoxia. All these impacts provoke great challenges to water availability and water safety in Southern Europe. Next slide, please. Great concern of the latest years is the creation of the development of toxic Sienna-bacteria because of algal blooms. According to EPA, Sienna-bacteria are photosynthetic bacteria that share some properties with algae and are found naturally in lakes, streams, and ponds. However, when conditions are favorable, such as high temperatures and increased level of nitrogen and phosphorus, Sienna-bacteria can rapidly multiply in surface water and cause blooms. Well, the main impact of Sienna-bacteria is cyanobacterial toxins, which are the most hazardous substances found in water bodies. People are exposed to cyanobacteria through two main routes. The first route is the ingestion of drinking water contaminated with cyanotoxins. As you know, in Southern Europe, and especially in Greece, drinking water supply is mainly based on surface water. So if surface water is contaminated with cyanotoxins, so drinking water is contaminated with cyanotoxins. The other route of exposure is through recreational activities with direct contact and or ingestion by accident of water due to when people are in recreational activities such as swimming. As you know, in Southern Europe, people are usually choose swimming or water sports as recreational activities. So their exposure to cyanotoxins is elevated. All this exposure of cyanobacteria and cyanotoxins from the general population leads to great health issues such as diarrhea and vomiting. and the great shortage of safe and available drinking water, as surface water contaminated with the cyanotoxins is not available for drinking. Next slide, please. We'll see a video from Dr. Manganelli, who is also participating in the panel, about the impacts of cyanobacteria.
Cyanobacteria blooms happen all over the world in surface water. More than 1 billion cells per liter can produce potent toxins that can harm animals and humans. In some cases, dramatic blooms prevented millions of people from drinking tap water for days up to a week. Crises like those are now recurrent. People can be exposed by drinking water, but also during recreational activities, by inhaling aerosol or drinking by accident, via hemodialysis, the most dangerous, and through contaminated food and food supplements. Animals can get sick and die by drinking contaminated water, since they are particularly attracted by it and can drink many liters and/or bath into the water. Anyway, appropriate management strategies are implemented in many countries. WHO provides specific information to be included in the water safety plan. While for recreational activities, most of the countries regularly monitor for cyanobacterial blooms and warn people of the risks in bathing during such blooms.
Thank you. I think the last part of monitoring is very important. And here we present some solution of remediating such contaminants. The first solution is the enhanced monitoring of nitrogen and phosphorus discharges from the agri-food, the industrial and municipal wastewater utilities. So as municipalities and industry could take immediate measures to minimize nitrogen and phosphorus discharges, especially in water scarce and water polluted areas. The second solution, as presented also in the white paper of water scarcity mentioned by Eva, is the development of digital tools for better estimating and predicting the environmental impact from nitrogen and phosphorus pollution in real time. So measures could be taken to avoid population exposure to nitrogen and phosphorus and other contaminants such as cyanobacteria. Strengthening the implementation of Water Framework Directive, Bathing Waters Directive, and Nitrate Directive, especially in Southern Europe, through the information of the general public about the quality of bathing waters and the proper implementation of water safety plans, including the impacts of nitrogen and phosphorus discharges. From an industrial point of view, I think it's important to highlight that the main branch of contamination is agriculture through exceed use of fertilizers, and the agriculture is the supply chain of food and beverage industries. So in the context of industrial water stewardship, I think will be important the evaluation of suppliers by the food and beverage industries based on their water efficiency and water pollution. Also, innovative water and wastewater treatment technology for minimizing the impact from nitrogen and phosphorus discharges can be introduced to water utilities to provide with safe drinking water the population. Next slide, please. One of these new innovative technologies adopted by Hera Group in the North Italy, and we thank them for the material, is an ultrasonic treatment system to block algae access to sunlight and nutrients, so they can sink in the bottom and die off without releasing toxins and contaminating the water bodies. Moving on to the next slide. I think it's important to mention also some EU initiatives concerning phosphorus control. These two initiatives are, the target of these two initiatives is different. In the PTRAP project is a Horizon 2020 project. The focus is to trap phosphorus in drained agricultural areas and controlling the loss of phosphorus in water bodies. And the next initiative is FlashPOS EU project concerning a new technology producing white phosphorus from the chemical industry by sewage sludge disposal. And its aim is to cover 50% of the European phosphorus demand by 2040 by recycling 15% of the sludge currently generated in Europe. As we all know, sewage sludge is rich in phosphorus. Next slide, please. By closing my presentation, I want to highlight the role of industry in nitrogen and phosphorus control. As I mentioned before, food and beverage industry does not have so much nitrogen and phosphorus in its industrial wastewater. However, the supply chain of the food and beverage industry leads to great pollution from nitrogen and phosphorus. So I think it's important in case of, we took the case study of the brewery, and the total water involved in producing beer, it's much less than the total water needed for the production of the supply chain. And water pollution is more severe from fertilizers applied for crops cultivation, for example, barley, than from beer production. So by evaluating the whole supply chain concerning water consumption and water pollutions, it's a step to a more sustainable industry and addressing water risks in the whole value chain of an industrial unit. With this approach, industries could better understand the quantity, efficiency, and geography of water use and pollution, and enable both agri-food and food and beverage industry move to a more sustainable direction and improve water management alongside with communities and governments for watershed protection. Thank you very much. Thank you, Eva.
Thank you, Anna. Another wonderful presentation. I think we learned more today about nitrogen and phosphorus pollution and their connection to the agri-food industry. And we will finalize the series of presentations with a focus on what companies can do and how they can measure and report the pollution and make sure that it is covered in their finances. So I would like to give the word now to Maria Cristina.
Yes, good afternoon to everybody, and thank you, Eva, for this opportunity. Thank you to the EIT. And also I would like to thank my colleagues for the excellent presentations, because both of them could highlight how much industry is involved in water pollution and also in water scarcity. We have to think that as soon as we have a problem within water availability, industry has to change their technologies. Industry has to perform a transformation and to change their processes into waterless processes. So, saving water is really an issue for all of us. Well, after the exploration of the water pollution level in Europe and some of the reasons behind it, we can now introduce the ESG approach in water pollution costs evaluation. The water management is one of the aspects analyzed to evaluate the sustainability level of an organization, whatever the sector is, including the agri-food. The water value is defined according to its level of reuse, either in the same process within the industry itself or in the integrated technosphere, social sphere, and ecosphere, with the aim to assess its quality and evaluate it as a natural capital for the organization. The Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, which I mentioned here in few details in this slide, let's say that oblige company to develop a first sustainability report starting from early 2024, based on the values of the organization related to the fiscal year of 2023. So it's really tomorrow. And this reporting, this sustainability reporting will be based on the environmental performance of the company. Next slide, please. The sustainability report, which will drive stakeholders and investors, both public and private investors, in financing any organization, will include, first of all, an assessment of the environmental, social, and governance topics, risks and focus areas for the company in order to achieve their goals. And secondly, the targets and the goals achieved will have to be mentioned in order to show that a progress has been performed also regarding water, as well as energy, as well as the other capitals mentioned. The sustainability risks have to be mentioned as well in terms of how these topics are impacting the operating results. And this is the point which is really an added value for the managing in a profitable way the problem of water scarcity and water pollution. We can see in this diagram how the ESG approach, the environmental gain, the governance gain, and the social gain are properly complying with the Sustainable Development Goals. And we can also see how many times water is mentioned directly and indirectly. We see the Sustainable Development Goal 6, clean water and sanitation, that is clear and quite obvious, I would say. But we also see in the environmental gain of an organization, the Sustainable Development Goal related to life below water, that can be, as we have seen also from Manuela Melucci presentation, can be an indirect effect of pollution. And we can also see Sustainable Goal 15, life on land, and this is highly impacted by the agri-food industry. Then we can also see how the sustainable goals related to responsible consumption and production of water, as well as innovation in industry and infrastructures, can help to solve this problem. Next slide, please. This means that whenever we have to develop a value proposition canvas in an organization, whatever it is, and we develop the value proposition in a standard way, and we mention the economic impact, the technological impact, the financial impact, and also the pain relief that is provided by the novel solution. We have also to take into consideration the next step, of the value proposition, which is the inclusion of the environmental, social, and governance issue. If you click Eva, we can see the substitution of the standard canvas with the new one that is called triple bottom line canvas value proposition, in which we see that beside the standard actions, the organization have also to consider the social impact mission. I mean, the impact of pollution, for instance, on the society, on the community. They have to develop channels, relationships, and also specific channels to generate new partnership with the community. And they have also to take into consideration the ecosystem. And within the ecosystem, we mean not only the channels and the tools in order to meet their needs, but we have also to be very clear within the organization, within the industry, to identify the ecosystem, I mean water, air, lakes, river basins, whatever, how these ecosystems can be impacted by our solution. And this solution can be a polluting solution as well as a depolluting solution. And according to these two features of our solution, of our product or service that we provide as a company to the society, we will have to calculate, beside the cost structures, also the surplus stream that we can achieve by providing a product which is compliant with the environmental needs. We have also to take care of the fact that the cost structures can be affected by additional costs due to the level of pollution developed by the production of this new service, of this new solution. Next slide, please. So now coming to some technical issues related to water. How can this surplus stream be evaluated in terms of revenues provided directly or indirectly? The Global Sustainability Standards Board have defined a list of global KPIs, standard KPIs, to be considered in the sustainability report in a way to identify and assess the impacts in the state of the art by different steps, which are understanding the organization's context, identify the actual and potential impacts, and assessing the significance of the impacts. Besides this, a list of material topics will be pragmatically developed by the organization, and within this list we will have also topics and materialities which are related to water. I show you here an abstract from the Global Reporting Initiative dossier, which includes all the different methodologies and practicalities for the organizations to be adopted in order to quantify the effect of pollution of water and the effect of the quality of the water. We can see that there are some specific chapters dedicated to water and effluents impact, effluents and waste impact, emissions impact, and waste impact. But we can see that many of them are directly or indirectly related to the water issue. So next slide, please. Beside this generic global reporting initiative with all the methodologies, if we focus on the chemical industry, which is one of the major, let's say, responsible for water pollution, we have a specific cluster of key performance indicators, standard ones, which were defined by the Sustainability Accounting Standards Board with a focus on chemicals, in which we can see on the right side of the slide that many of them are related, less or more related to water. If we click on these specific topics, we will see that the specific methodology is released with also some accounting metrics that the company have to adopt in order to release on an annual basis a report in which they show what they have been able to perform in order to depollute water. And here there is a short video to show you how much this issue is already part of our economic scenarios.
Water lies at the heart of our global economy. According to the World Economic Forum's latest Global Risks report, water crises will be the second major global risk for business over the next 10 years. Population growth and continued economic development, together with climate change, will make existing water challenges even tougher. In the face of these challenges, decision makers need a pragmatic metric to help them make long-term business decisions that integrate the sustainability issues associated with water use and monetary value. In other terms, we need to monetize the blue risks, to better price water. Developed by Veolia, the true cost of water is a game-changing methodology that focuses on the financial implications of water-related risks for public authorities and industrial companies. It maps these risks in terms of likelihood and potential economic impact, taking into account direct water costs, indirect water costs, and the financial implications of the water risks. The true cost of water can be applied to evaluate the financial opportunities behind new water management strategies or the implementation of advanced and integrated water solutions. With the true cost of water, companies can better manage blue risks and externalities, optimize costs associated with water management, enhance competitiveness, secure their social license to operate, and ensure long-term profitability. The true cost of water, a new decision-making tool for sustainable water management and co-creation of shared value.
Okay, thank you. We can go to the next slide. This video was just to show you how much the water issue is now in the course of being evaluated in a quantitative way. And beside this video, which is just really one of the many that we can find in internet, actually in the web, and showing that there is a real interest towards the possibility to enhance the quality of water, to better reuse it, and also to save it, especially having to face this climate change issue. Here there is an example I tried to develop in a scheme to show you how in a chemical industry we can measure the water, the cost of water pollution. Mainly within an industry, within a chemical industry, water is related to cooling systems, steam generations, feedstock processing, and also, I would say, washing, which I didn't mention because it is too chemical, let's say, but actually water is used to wash the crude products, and this is the way the water releases pollutants into the water. And of course, this type of processes are affecting climate change, water pollution, but also global population growth and related consumption, because whenever we generate a problem, as we are all acting in an ecosystemic value chain at global level, there is an effect on the other side of the planet. So, which can be the risks and the key performance indicators, which can be quantified in order to evaluate the cost of polluted water. First of all, water scarcity or polluted water can affect the operational actions in terms of increase the risk of operational disruptions. We can face water procurement costs in case the water has to be cleaned and treated before the usage, as well as we have to pay for regulatory compliance and to mitigate the cost of regulatory compliance. And last but not least, I would mention two last KPIs. The legal expenses that a company has to face in a case of litigations related to pollution problems. And secondly, the out of standard products quality, which can derive by the use of the wrong quality of water. And these key performance indicators of the state of the health of water is accounted in a quantitative way by the sustainability accounting system, which is system board, which is dedicated to quantify and to show how there can be different methodologies in order to evaluate this damage. Next slide, please. just to report a few real examples of big companies which are already developing the annual sustainability report in order to be attractive for investors, both public big investors, private investors, as well as individual investors, which are, for instance, from the community, very careful about the pollution issues. Here we see a big company, Merck company, a chemical company. These data are public. Everybody can have a look at them. In 2021, they have released the last sustainability report, which go beside the annual financial report and shows among the topics that we have seen in the Global Reporting Initiative, as well as in the Sustainability Accounting System Board, KPIs, we can select the topic which is more close to our sector and see how we are progressing towards saving water. And if we go to the next slide, we can see BSF example, which is very interesting because it is, let's say, a quantification, a financial quantification of the effect of the progress that has been developed along the year. You can see that the action within the environmental issues, including water consumption, water emissions, and also waste, which is indirectly related to water, you see that from the supply chain perspective on the own operations and also customer industries, there is an evaluation, a quantification of the gain or the loss in the profitability due to this action or no action towards the thematics that we have discussed so far. Well, if we go to the next slide and I close my presentation and click again in order to see the content, here we see, your question can be, how can we evaluate where we are? There are different systems, universal assessment systems, which any company can join in order to see where the company is in relation to the sector to which it belongs. So you will see after this survey, which can be extended to specific stakeholders inside the company and outside the company, for instance, suppliers or strategic partners, you see that your company will have a rate within the governance, within the community issues, within the environmental issues, including water, which is highly detailed analytically. And at the end of the story, you will see where you are and what you have to do in order to improve your rate and be attractive for the financial system. Thank you very much. I think I have closed my presentation. And
thank you, Maria Cristina.
Any question?
Wonderful. So many enriching details from the 3 presentations. I think we all learned new knowledge today, and probably we still have a number of questions. And of course, we could have separate presentations, days, talking about these 3 very important topics relating to water pollution. But for today, what we really wanted to do is to have an introduction to some of the aspects of water pollution and water scarcity, but also to give the voice to some of the actors in the ecosystem. So that's why we will, we unfortunately had to skip this part of the presentation because we are running out a little bit of time. But I would like to ask all of you to go to menti.com and use the code 9441086. You can also use the QR code on my screen to access the Mentimeter. And this is where we would like to ask some of the questions from the audience. And this is accessible for everyone who joined us on Zoom and registered for this seminar, but also for the audience watching us live. And we will use the Mentimeter to ask some questions, but also we will have a Q&A enabled for the discussion panel. So just as a reminder, so the website where you have to go is menti.com and introduce this code, and then you will be able to see the questions. I will stop sharing my screen and start running the Mentimeter. Okay. So we will have just a few questions. So the first question, and I'm sure that many of you, especially the ones who are joining us through the ecosystem of water, you will have no doubt about what is the correct answer. But how many liters of drinking water do you think Europeans use a day? And we can see a lot of answers coming in. There is a little bit debate between 50 liters or 150. But we can all see that it's an enormous amount of drinking quality water that we Europeans use a day. And in the context of water scarcity, which is getting worse with climate change, this is a huge number of liters of water that we will have to look into ways of reducing. Now going to the next question that some of you have asked, already answered, is about the PFAS, the forever chemicals that Manuela described previously today. Which are the categories that you think contain? And many of you already identified correctly that all of them, unfortunately, both pizza boxes, non-stick frying pans, the frozen vegetable packaging, the raycons, items that we all use every day contain these PFAS. And the following question is about whether you feel comfortable swimming in a recreational area which contains algae. And this is, of course, most of you believe that it's not acceptable, and we have to look for ways to reduce the algae in the areas where we swim. And the last question relates to your organizations that you represent. Do you already adopt sustainability reporting? I think many of you found interesting the last presentation for this aspect by Maria Cristina. And we can see that many of you already do sustainable reporting, which is a very good news, but more of you will still have to start using it as per the new directive. And with that, and with the interest of time, I will stop sharing my screen, and we have run over a little bit the time, but we would very much like to now give the floor to the panel. And the panel discussion will be moderated by Joanna, who is one of our experts who also presented the nitrogen phosphorus pollution today. I will look through the questions that are coming in through the chat from the people who registered and through the Mentimeter, where you can also ask questions in the last question, which is a Q&A slide. So with that, Joanna, I give you the floor. We have half an hour, but if everyone is happy to stay a bit longer, then we can potentially use a little bit more time.
Thank you, Eva. Hello again. I want to welcome all of our panelists to this seminar and thank them for their participation. Let's start our conversation with a roundtable just to meet our panelists. Just say a little bit about yourself and your organization, and then we will follow with our discussion. Let's start with Laura Faziolo from Mamno PFAS social organization. Laura, a little bit about yourself and your organization.
So thanks, Joanna, and thanks for the opportunity to attend this webinar. I'm part of the non-PFAS MAM that is present in Italy. We are a group that started back in 2017, when we were informed about the results of the first blood exams that were done on teenagers in order to test the amount of PFAS in their blood. So here we are not speaking of PFAS in the environment. We are not speaking of PFAS on the packaging. We are speaking about PFAS in our body, in our kids' body. What we did is to immediately start asking information regarding this, what were the risks, the harms, above all for our kids. And the first replies that we had were only that everything was fine and that were no issues at all with this, that all was safe. And above all, the tap water, because it's always controlled. There are a lot of checks that are done daily on it. Unfortunately, the tap water was instead bringing these compounds directly into our homes. And we are still working on this after almost 5 years, working a lot with institutions as well as with researchers and scientists in order to find solutions to this big problem, and above all, to prevent the recurrence of similar issues all over the world.
Thank you, Laura. Moving on to Dr. Maura Manganelli from the National Institute of Health in Italy. Hello.
Good afternoon to everybody, and thank you to the organization for inviting me to this seminar. I work at the National Institute of Health of Italy in Rome, and in the Department of Environment and Health. And I've been working on cyanobacteria for a long time now, because they are naturally occurring organisms in the environment, but the condition of the environment is changing, so their occurrence and the toxicity is changing as well. And so they started to represent the problem for the health. So that's why we work on this topic. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to Maurizia Brunetti from HERA Group, Water Utility in Italy.
Okay, good afternoon. Okay, you know, HERA Group is one of the main utilities in Italy. We work in the northeast of our country, and we think that one of our mission is to improve the quality and the quantity of the water that we are distributing in our about 30,000 kilometers of network. And so we have different projects of innovation and sustainability, and we think that this event is surely a great opportunity to participate.
Thank you, Mauricia. Let's meet also our industrial partners, and Nikos Koufokosios from the Athenian Brewery. Hello, Nikos.
Hello, good afternoon from me as well. I'm very happy to be here today, and thank you for the invitation. I represent Athenian Brewery, which is the biggest brewery in Greece and part of Heineken, of the Heineken company. My background is chemical engineer, so this was a very, very interesting seminar. And I currently lead the sustainability and digital pillars, let's say, for the Athenian Brewery. And I'm very eager to take part in this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's also meet Matteo Marcone from Lanatex Group, textile industry. Hello,
thank you, Joanna. Hello, thank you. Today, I'm Matteo Marcone. Nice to meet you. I represent Lanatex, an Italian textile laboratory. We are involved into R&D projects, and we are really skilled in daily check on multiple analysis from a lot of samples. Our activities changed a lot in the last 10 years. focusing day by day on researching for hazardous chemicals on textiles, from raw material to garments, or all kinds of materials of textiles. At the moment, we collected a lot of real data coming from both primary and secondary raw material, and we are trying to focus our clients, our customers, on this kind of purpose on sustainability.
Matteo. I want to start the conversation, but before that, I would like to encourage you, if you want something to ask to another panelist or discuss a topic a bit, feel free to take the floor and ask anything you want. I would like to start the discussion with Matteo and the textile industry, and asking whether you take any actions for green manufacturing, for example, by replacing harmful chemicals and emerging contaminants with other materials. Where is water in the textiles value chain, and which challenges this occur?
Okay, thank you. Nice question. First of all, just a couple of premises. Textile industries is not the fashion industry. It's just a part of it, okay? This simple difference is fundamental to understanding what the truth of these two words are not completely aligned. The goals themselves are different, okay? On the other hand, the weight that brands have on this is certainly preponderant. They have direct contact with the customer, so they have the market. They own the market. Is therefore the customer who have the power to direct the entire supply chain in the right direction. So it's necessary that he is duty informed of the facts. The customer is the base of this process, I think. All this naturally has forced thousands of companies, even the smallest ones, to keep themselves with the tools and skills and professionals to grow and to know something more day by day. But in this moment, the increasing cost in the face of maintaining sale prices has contracted. So the power to invest of companies, even the smallest one, today now there is to collapse, especially with the higher of the price of energy. It's a very important thing. Other hand, chemical companies, given the decrease in demand for some chemicals no more usable, have invested heavily in the search for technological substitutes, using less water or just other chemicals. Sometimes with excellent results. For example, with softener, they try a lot of very important products. Sometimes without being able to match certain kind of performances in a sustainable way for PFAS substitute, for example. For private maintenance, we have now a good news, because since last years, many states thought about reducing the use of water for maintenance, for care maintenance of garments. Okay, the only one alternative was the tetrachloroethylene or perchloroethylene. Some of you all for sure know this. And for many years there was no real alternative to this kind of professional solvent. Now we can use multi-solvent hydrocarbons machines. For example, we bought one on 2019 to treat and to maintain products just using water, but just a little bit of water, but mostly for cooling. So there is no water inside the process, and there is no water given to the wastewater. Okay. Just we bought it and we used it since 2019 to raise awareness among our customers, not just for R&D processes, but also for kind of sustainable way to do this kind of work. USA, for example, from 2021, used just hydrocarbons professional cleaning, no more tetrachloroethylene, and I think that Europe will follow in a while. Regarding the importance of water, there's no doubt that in textile industry is definitely water intensive. It's not the news. Water is essential for dyeing and for finishing processes. However, there are also some alternatives. The main one being the use of secondary raw material. This is the first one we have at the moment, and is the most important we have right now. Textile district, where I am lucky enough to work as an important history that dates back to the mid-19th century for this type of processing, using secondary raw material, in fact, allows you not to dye again and to finish just a bit, not at all. We consequently significantly reduce the water consumption. Here too, however, we encounter some problem, as often the styles proposed by the brands includes applications, prints, embroidery, or just inserts, films, or the use of fabrics of different compositions in the meantime together. All these behaviors have a consequence. These materials cannot be really recovered, and they are not really easily reused. So we just have to take a look even in how we build a garment, not just what we use, the material, but even how we plan the recycling of that kind of garment. The phase one is to use a recycled material. The second one is to how to plan, how to recycle it. From my privileged observatory, I can say that certainly the trend is strongly marked towards sustainability, of course, but that much more could be done, as a still very important part of the population is not correctly informed about the tension of some qualified supply chains, and therefore are not willing to spend a few more dollars to incentivize companies that do not invest in sustainable products to reconvert. So I think that usually the information, the customer must be informed. This is the point, in my opinion.
Thank you, Matteo. I think very interesting aspects are pointed out concerning water in the textile industry. And I would like to hear the water utility perspective and ask Mauricia, which kind of new technologies are you using for monitoring and remediation of emerging contaminants concerning sensoring and removing technologies? Can you give us an overview of the water utility needs?
Well, you know that all the European countries have to develop in 2028 the water safety plans for all the phases of our drinking water potable chain. And so we started this development, and we had improved the different improvement actions that have came out from this water safety plan. First of all, it's important for us to develop a predictive approach in the monitoring phase. So you know that one of the main highlights is the early warning system, which even has the opportunity to develop some technology, for example, fingerprint, which is a model of the water that we would catch in Bubano Basin near Imola. Here there is a surface water source, and we developed this model with a spectrophotometric system with our laboratories, and we installed this model near the basin, and so we are able to have an alert when there is a difference between this fingerprint and the water that is being catched by the river. Another technology important for us is the one that we are studying with Sienna, so with Dr. Manuela Melucci and her team. In Ponte Lago Scuro, here we are in Ferrara, so the water source is the Po River, which is the main river we have in Italy, and we decided as an action, an improvement action after water safety plan of Ponte Lago Scuro plant, we decided to activate this collaboration with Manuela in order to evaluate if there is a system that is able to obtain both PFAS and also other emergent contaminants, for example, bisphenol A, and so this collaboration has been done with CNR and also with Medica, because in the filter we are also using polysulfone, which is a recovery material that it is used in the biomedical system for the dialysis of the treatment, the blood human treatment. And other technologies are, for example, used also in Ponte Lago Scuro in the lagoon basins, which is one of the first phase that we have in our treatment process. And here, with the increasing of irradiation and also increasing temperatures, we had a problem with the blue algal bloom. So we are going to install, as previously you talked about, these instruments that are using ultrasonic in order to avoid that the algae can access to the surface, and so there will be not the photosynthesis, and so the nutrients will not give the opportunity to algae to grow up. And so we expect that these instruments will give us a great opportunity to reduce this aspect of algae bloom, which is monitored with early warning system, in which we are counting both the number of algae and also the characteristics in order to prevent the toxicity of this problem.
Thank you, Maurizia. I think there is a wide floor for innovation in water utilities for water treatment. And focusing on PFAS, I want to move to Laura conversation. And as a mother and as a no mom with no PFAS member of the social organization, is there something that you would like to ask the scientific community and the policymakers concerning the issue of PFAS?
So first of all, I would like to explain that we are not only the living witnesses of this disaster, but we are also here just to ask scientists to try to have new studies done and better understand what are the effects on our health. You may know that back in 2016, a cohort study was meant to be done on our population. We are speaking, as you have seen in the previous slides, we are speaking about more than 300,000 people involved. So a cohort study on this kind of numbers would be able to surely provide better information on the impact on our health. Unfortunately, this was not set yet, and we are hoping this will be done as soon as possible. And on the other end, we are hoping, as already done with some scientists and researchers, that more and more studies will be done on our population in order to clarify many of the aspects that are still pending to be clarified. And this is to avoid in the next future to have someone saying again, we don't know about the toxicity of these compounds. We have still no clear idea on this or on that. Here we are simply waiting for scientists and researchers to use our data and provide final answers. Then in terms of what I would ask to policymakers and institutions, I would say that during these 5 years, for sure, we have seen a different trend. As I explained at the beginning, there were everyone saying us that there was no problem, that everything was fine and the water was safe. Actually, after some months, the emergency status was declared for our region. We are speaking about the Veneto region in the northeast of Italy. And so, but it's not enough. We are seeing, I don't know if you have been informed that EPA has lowered down to 0.004 nanograms per liter, the acceptable, the health advisory level for one of these compounds, and specifically for PFOA. So we are seeing EFSA or EPA or other institutions that are lowering down the acceptable levels of these compounds in the water. But until we are discussing and only about single compounds, this will not be the correct approach. The approach will be to ban these chemicals entirely as a class. And when it will be impossible to have different compounds for example, there are some of them that has not yet, for which we have not yet found other chemical compounds having similar properties. In this case, the companies will need to have closed circuit in order to avoid anything to go out into wastewater and to find it out in the environment, because we are the environment. And as we have explained, we are having these compounds in our bloods because simply we are living here. And I would also like to have something done better in terms of prevention, because in this moment, for example, we have information about a lot of kids that were born here with a very low birth weight. And this is something that is well known to be related to the PFAS exposure. And on the other hand, a low birth weight is something that is related with several illnesses in the older age, but nothing is done on these kids in order maybe to prevent them to develop any of these possible illnesses in their next future. So prevention and at first, and then these kind of chemicals as a class.
Thank you, Laura. I also believe that the health impact and social impact is crucial for decision making. And to also cover the aspect of ESG and sustainable manufacturing, I want to move to Nikos from the Athenian Brewery and ask him if in the context of ESG and sustainable manufacturing, will you consider evaluating the water performance on consumption and pollution of your suppliers? And are there any practices you already apply for a sustainable supply chain?
Thank you, Anna, for the question. As a matter of fact, we do try to have, let's say, a look end-to-end, so our impact also due to the ESG, of course, but we are trying to look from the supply, from the field, from the farm to the fork, as they say. For us, is from the field, And we are currently trying to monitor the suppliers, but at the moment, unfortunately, we do not have any action at hand to monitor water performance. We are, though, in the process with a startup to fully calculate, and regarding the startup, I will come back to it, to fully calculate based on real data from the field and the surrounding environment, the equipment used, the CO2 emissions from the agriculture, and also estimate the water footprint of the supply chain through models of water consumption, like we had from rainfall and water absorption from the barley, as discussed from you and the other presenters. In the same way, we do have plans down the road to measure the consumption of water in the field, the water per ton of barley produce, as this is the biggest contributor, the biggest consumer of water in our process. And this is doable. But regarding pollution, okay, I'm not sure how much we could intervene in our farmers' way of working, in what chemicals they use, in what soil, let's say, additives they are using, let alone monitor this thing. We do monitor, though, the final product, the barley, and through this, okay, we have an image, but not the whole picture. I do trust, though, and this is why I said about the startup. I firmly believe that the green evolution is going hand in hand with the technology evolution, and I believe that in the near future, some startup will give us the opportunity to monitor also to a third party to monitor the additives in the agriculture, so we have eyes on it. And we're open to suggestions. If you know anyone, or if any of the other panelists know any such startup, we're open to suggestions.
Thank you very much. Maybe a legal framework, a EU legal framework or national legal framework will help control a little bit nitrogen and phosphorus pollution from agriculture. And to focus on nitrogen and phosphorus pollution and the development of algal blooms and cyanobacteria, I want to move to Dr. Mara Manganelli and ask her if you have observed increased concentrations of cyanobacteria in the last few years, and which remediation actions do you think should be taken to prevent the population exposure?
Thank you for these questions. Yes, definitely there has been a general increase of cyanobacteria all over the world. There are many studies that show that in the last 2 decades, but even before, there has been an increase. Actually, in the USA, where there is a very efficient system network of control for cyanobacteria, since 2000, there has been 7 major events that affected the environment, the economy, and drinking water, and so on. In Europe, we also have data from sediments showing that there has been a dramatic increase of cyanobacteria since the Industrial Revolution and after the end of the Second World War. Of course, it's a problem. I said it's a global problem. China is a lot of problem. In Africa, there has been an increase. And of course, the problem are bigger for the countries that are experiencing a shortage of surface water that is needed for drinking. In southern Italy, we have problems. In the Mediterranean African countries, there are problems. And I would say, luckily, it's something that can be monitored. And so in the sense of prevention of exposure, we have many ways to prevent exposure of people. While it's very difficult to prevent new blooms because it's such a big complex problem related not only to pollution of nutrients, but also to climate change. And anytime you touch something in the environment, you move a lot of things that are so interconnected that you solve a problem and you start with another one. So we must be very careful to do anything without having the right knowledge. Exposure of people can happen through drinking water. That is one of the most important, because you ingest directly the toxins. And so WHO, but also the local authorities, as Ms. Brunetti was saying before, now there is this water safety plan that is a very efficient and very global system to take care of the problem and to know in advance if the water is good or not, so to prevent exposure through drinking water. As I showed in my very brief video, for recreational activities, cyanobacteria are now monitored in many countries. And it's very important to communicate to people, because it's a self-control problem. I mean, people can see the bloom and can avoid swimming or having recreational activities in water. For this reason, it is actually a problem more related to young people, because children often are not conscious of the problem. So if they see colored water, maybe they are attracted and they start playing with the water. So that it's something that has to do. So threshold of exposure for children are lower than adult one. I think at the moment, in most of the countries, the cyanobacteria problem from the point of view of exposure is well controlled, and there are these ways to prevent the exposure of people. And but for remediation, we are very far from being close to the solution of the problem.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we are on time to close the panel discussion. I want to thank you all for your contribution and your insights about the action your organization take. And pass the floor to Eva.
Thank you, Joanna. And I also wanted to ask the panel, and of course the wonderful presentations. We touched upon so many important issues that we could organize possibly a week of discussions about all of them. I have seen some questions from the chat and also from the Mentimeter. I would like to highlight that there was a contribution from Panayotis, highlighting that there is an EU mission focusing on making freshwater and oceans healthier and greener. So I would like to, and he also put in the chat the link where you can all find information. So I think this seminar also highlights the importance to treat these issues, and also hearing from the industry members, the utility, health, and also from civil society, that these are issues that we need to plan now and we need to tackle now to make sure that in the future we can avoid the harm done by these polluting contaminants. What I would also like to highlight from all of us is that we are all impacted by these chemicals, but we are also contributing to them. So I really like the points made by all of you, the role of the citizen of understanding the risk and managing the risk. And also we have seen Laura very much highlighting the impact of social society, who are really going and telling us and reminding us time and time again that some of the issues are not going away if we don't deal with them. So with that, I would like to close this seminar. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today. As I said, there will be other seminars coming up, and we will share information about those. And feel free to reach out to all of us on the chat for the streaming, and also you can find our contact details on social media. So we are really happy to receive more questions and hopefully answer them in the future. And of course, we would very much like to thank Water Europe for supporting us with these seminars. And until next time.
Thank you, Eva. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Thank you.